Welcome, everybody. We're back with another Lord of the Rings TCG movie block deck tech. This time, we're riding with the Riders of Rohan. That sounded super cheesy as soon as I said it. I regret it. But we're going to look at sort of the Rohan deck that is competitive in this format. So we'll have one deck to share. The list is going to be in the video description. Eric is back once again to show off his very shiny and very cool decks. If you like the channel, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, blah, blah, blah. Let's get into it, though.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, the Riders of Rohan was actually what Decipher called their, tournament champion people, like they have the squadrons in Star Wars. So that's, they obviously thought it was a cool name too. But so Rohan is probably, one of, if not my favorite Free People's sides. And obviously Rohan peaked certainly in the Two Towers because almost all of these cards were available in Towers block. But they're still highly competitive in the movie block. They weren't the most popular deck by the time movie block came around, but it's still certainly a competitive deck. And a lot of it is, a couple of their key cards are just the power curve of them is so high. One of them being, what you see here, Eomer, the third Marshal of Riddermark. So he gets +2 strength for each wound on each minion he is skirmishing. And so if you've ever played that, you know how that can go, and you can just get obscene power levels with this guy. And then obviously you can get him also for only 2 cost in your starting fellowship if you can spot a man. And this is always the funny thing where this worked with the Witch King, but it doesn't work in LOTR, is that Eowyn is a man in terms of the classification. So that was the whole I'm no man and slaughters the Witch King. But yeah, so she does count, of course, for Eomer. So you can start these two guys. This is the promo Eowyn art, but I like that one better. But yeah, that's a nice starting team, though, those two guys. And then just got any Frodo. This one I'm playing is the one that protects your hand, but you can really play any Frodo. And then we've got the Water Ring here. So there's your starting fellowship is Eomer, Eowyn, and just a standard Frodo. So that's the start. Then companion-wise, the one thing that movie block did give to Rohan that they didn't have access to during the Two Towers is this tech with Merry. So Merry Swordthain has an effect that says return him to your hand to play up to 2 possessions from your discard pile. So he can get back all your Rohan possessions, which is really nice. And then the other tech with him is he does have his own Rohan possession sword, which is really nice. It's a nice wounding effect that says exert Merry twice to exert a minion once for each Rohan companion you can spot. So you're going to get three down at least, which means you can basically exert, 2 exhaustion, Witch King, Castamere, any of those big guys. But the point is too, similar tech that you've seen like in the Hobbit deck tech that we did, if you've seen that one prior, if this comes out first. Either way, this Merry can return himself to the hand. So basically when he exerts himself twice, the next time you're in a skirmish, you can just pick him up and remove those 2 wounds. Granted, you lose the sword to the discard pile, but that's where you can cycle multiple copies of the swords with Merry. So you've got in here a couple Marys and a couple swords. So that's kind of the new added Rohan tech that didn't exist prior. But everything else you'll see here, I think, is pretty standard Rohan if you're familiar with how it plays, even in the Towers block. So you've got one additional rider. This one we chose is Hrethel. He's nothing special. Just again another rider. You can get him up to 9 strength by healing a minion, but that's his ability. Then we got a couple Greenleafs in here again. These work really well with that Merry ability, where Merry is going to exhaust minions, and then Legolas can finish them off because that Merry's sword happens in the maneuver. So that comes in and exhausts during maneuver, and so then if you can wound during archery, it's a really nice combo.
Eric, how many Greenleaf foils do you have, man? Like every one of them.
Well, these are super cheap. So if anyone wants to pick up Greenleaf foils, pick up these. Absolutely. These are the promo versions. So I have run out of the cool ones with the blue spacey background. I don't want to say how many I have, but I don't have enough to even use them in all my decks. so
I forgot
some
they
of
made
them
a
you'll
promo
see
version of that.
I resorted to the promo version. But yeah, I think this is like a less than $5 card. So
Yeah, I think
anyone
that's
who wants
right.
a foil Greenleaf, this is absolutely, it's a great card. It looks cool. It's foil. Pick those up, guys. So so here is Sam. And Radagast. Again, these are just staples of the format for splashing, and Aragorn, Ranger of the North. So again, some of you are just very typical splash companions. I find these are better than just playing more useless Rohan people, is play some of these random impactful other people cultures. So they do have some really nice allies, though. You got Deor, who will let you discard a card from your hand to make a Rohan man strength +1. Now, +1 doesn't seem great, but you can really sprinkle that where you need it. And it's also just fantastic because you can just cycle cards. So that's really what he's great for, too, is just any card that has the ability to just discard a card, is always pretty solid in Lord of the Rings. And then Leowyn is discard 2 cards to heal a man. So you've got the one that pumps, and then you've got this one that cycles even more aggressively for healing. So this one is, again, another great ally. Now, before we get into all of these possessions, obviously anyone who's played Rohan knows this, but just to highlight this for anyone who's not familiar, I have to show off my beautiful flower garden here. Simbelmyne is just is a fantastic card that, like, no other Free People's culture has a card that you could compare to this. It basically lets you play a character or a possession from your draw deck. So in terms of putting together combos, when you play 4 copies of this, it just lets you match up whatever you want. And typically what you want, the first thing you're going to go after is going to be Eomer, Firefoot, and Eomer's Spear. So normally you can't just play, one of each of these cards and expect to land them. But in Rohan, you land them every time because of the 4 copies of that. And Firefoot is fantastic because he gives Eomer Defender +1, and he makes each minion skirmishing him exert. So just between Eomer and Firefoot, you can assign 2 minions to Eomer, exert each of those minions, and then Eomer gets +4 strength off of his own text. And then if there's additional wounds on them, it just goes up from there. And then also the Spear just adds 2 more power and damage +2. So like I said, just statistically, this card, for any format, but even, especially movie block, the power level is just off the charts with this combo here that you can basically combo anytime you want. Then the rest of it, you're doing similar smaller things with your other riders. You've got Brego and Rider's Mount and Rider's Spear. So again, setting up just horses with spears. And if you guys don't know what horses do, they exert. When you assign a minion to a person with a horse, at least these particular horses, you have to exert. The minion has to exert. And then again, Mary's sword that we looked at earlier, Eowyn's sword. And then in terms of protection and removal that this deck has, Arrow Slits for possessions is nice. And then Fortress Never Fallen for conditions. This one is anytime you win a skirmish, you stack a token and you can discard the condition to get rid of a shadow condition for every token you've stacked on it. So that can be very similar to clear out all conditions. And then this is a nice condition that you can just have in your support area. It's essentially just a pump, but when you're at a plains, it's a pump and heal. But what's really nice about it is that, again, just in terms of cycling your deck, you just slam it down in your support area and just use it when you need it. So, it's, again, similar to something like Servant of the Secret Fire, except for it's just a condition instead of an event. So that's pretty superior, too, in that way. And again, we left none alive, just another sprinkling pump. And then a couple utility cards, Tale of the Great Ring for Frodo and Out of High Airs for Radagast. So, like I said, largely based on Eomer, Simbelmyne, putting together those combos, and then also the Mary/Mary's sword combo, but then you're complemented by the other people like Legolas, Radagast, those guys. So comes together really nicely as a deck. It's a really fun one to play. Definitely one of my favorite decks is the Rohan. So definitely, if you get a chance to try it. put it together. And, again, if you don't do it in foil, it's a super cheap deck to put together. Most of these cards are from Two Towers, which is one of the most readily available.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I don't hit this enough, is this game, you don't have to buy the foils. Like, this game is actually pretty affordable. Most rares are $2. Also, I'm glad that you said the flower out loud. I've never wanted to I mean, that's maybe a $12 card, but in general, this game's pretty cheap and pretty accessible if you want to just build some decks and have some fun.
For sure. That's definitely the thing that I love the foils, of course, not trying to gloat, but yeah, it's super fun. And that's how I started, was just with the most basic decks, and it's super cheap and easy to put decks together in this game if you're just buying regular rare singles. So it's definitely something. Don't feel like these are out of reach for you. Don't buy the foils unless that's your thing, because one high-end foil will pay the cost of basically your whole deck, and it's not worth
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for sharing this deck with us, folks. I'd love to hear your ideas. You have different ideas for Rohan decks or different ways to play this. Maybe your favorite memories, whatever you want to share. Always happy to hear from people that like the videos. So we're going to be wrapping up our series soon. I think we only have 4 cultures left, so I'm excited to get there. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you next time.